Hi everyone. So, gosh, I haven't been back for so long. I haven't talked to you guys for a while. I am 2 weeks post-op. Wanted to touch base with you and talk about a lot of things actually. So, I mentioned that I was going to have surgery and that I would be gone for a while. And I want to talk to you about why I disappeared and what I've done to recover. I'm 2 weeks after having a pretty major surgery and I'm feeling pretty good. So that's a big part of what I wanted to talk to you about. So I hope all of you are doing great. And so let's talk about how you can recover quickly. Why you can do things, obviously, through any situation. It doesn't have to be surgery. Any health challenge that are going to help you recover quickly or that are going to really take a toll on your body and you won't recover quickly. So the first thing that I wanted to mention was I took a break from social media. So you may notice I have not been doing many live chats. And that was intentional. So I really wanted to focus on just being in the best possible shape physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually that I could be in before I went in for surgery. And that is part of my strategy. So in the Brain Warriors Way book that Daniel and I wrote together, all of you know that I practice martial arts. I love it. I think it's a great metaphor for life. And one of the things I talk about is you cannot wait until fight day to start training. You have to train every day. You have to be armed, aware, prepared all the time. You can't wait until fight day, until a fight hits you in order to decide you're going to start training, or you will lose the fight. That is something I learned when I got sick the first time. So I've had multiple medical surgeries and I recovered the best from this one. I'm recovering very well, very nicely. It's been a pretty low-key, non-stressful event because I took the wisdom from the last ones and I have made sure that I am healthy and I'm in shape and I'm doing all the things that I can do to make myself, just heal the best that I can. But you can't start on fight day. So I took a break from social media and here's why. Facebook probably isn't going to let me promote this by talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it, okay? I think that social media is an amazing tool. I think it's amazing for spreading useful, helpful information. Or I think it can be a human vampire. And I love my community, and so I had someone helping me, who's been helping me a lot, and I think doing a really great job. They asked me about difficult questions, but they've been helping me stay in touch as much as possible. But even with a community, when you're helping people, it can take a lot of energy and your focus away from a lot of things. I needed to really be focused on my own health. So I want you to think about that. If you're going through something that's really hard for you, how much energy are you spending on things that you don't necessarily need to do, that aren't a priority, that aren't essential? And so many of us think that connecting on social media and staying connected that way is absolutely essential. I promise you, it feels that way, but if you take a break from it for a little while, you feel so refreshed. So I just took a break and I did not get on and do live chats or things like that. And I missed actually connecting with you guys, but it was really neat. It was a needed thing for me to get my mind just in a really good place. And I spent that extra time just in prayer and meditation and doing what I need to do mentally to be strong. And spending it with my family, and I spent more time working out and getting my environment ready. So I just want you to think about that. Are there times that you need to take a break? Are you spending extra time on social media that you maybe need to curtail it or come back to it or set it aside? If you're spending time on social media, I almost never go on my personal page anymore. I spend my time on this page. A lot of you write to me on my personal page. I will not get back to you. I don't go on there and spend time socially, personally any longer. I haven't been on there in a very long time. I do this as something that I do as a service, as a business, okay? But it's not a financial reward. I do this as part of my service in my business. So think about that. But now back to surgery. So I had to have a surgery. And one of the things I want to mention about that, wow, it's amazing how many people talk about how if you're healthy enough, even if it's genetic, you should not have to, you won't have to have surgery. You should be able to do it all naturally. I'm sorry, I'm the first one to say, I don't want to do surgery if I don't have to. That's not always going to be true. I think there's a balance to this idea. Okay, let's not be crazy about it. Let's, like, if I go into the hospital with a gunshot wound, please don't give me willow bark. Let's not be nuts about these ideas. And if you feel that way, that's okay. I respect your opinion. But if it's me, give me medicine at that point, right? So we want to put everything in perspective. Medicine and modern medicine and Western medicine is amazing for what it's good for. I just don't believe in the indiscriminate use of things or abusing it when we don't need to. So be the healthiest you can, avoid what you can, and do what you have to when you need to, and appreciate what is there to help us when we need it. So my genetics, sadly, sort of suck. Pardon the expression, but they just have. But I've learned that, and I've learned that just because the gun is loaded, I don't have to pull the trigger on everything. And when the trigger gets pulled, guess what? When I show up at fight day, I know how to be prepared. I know how to be strong now. So I'm almost 50, and this was the best surgery I've come through because I am prepared, because I was aware, because I built my reserve. So reserve is the first tip, the first strategy I want to talk to you about. You can't show up on fight day and expect to win if you haven't been training. So you got to build your reserve. It's kind of like a bank account with your health. So because I spend my life being in that place of health, being in that place of, working out, eating healthy, meditating, doing all these things on a regular basis all the time. Now, does that mean that I don't ever it's not 100%, but it's 95%. So, but because I do that, so now when something comes up, I don't have to freak out and go, oh my God, I'm not ready for it. I'm not in shape for it. Oh my God, now surgery is going to be dangerous. I don't have to freak out and do that. It's like, oh, okay. But I took that month before surgery to make sure I was even a little bit more on my game, if that makes sense. So I wanted to be very much on my game. So build your reserve. Okay. The next thing is, what does that mean to build your reserve? So for me, I took that break from social media. It means I prepared my environment. I spent time getting my house. Like I got every project that needed to be done before surgery, because I knew after surgery, I do not want, part of your recovery is going to be post-op, right? So I did not want to have to sit there and go, oh, now I have to do this or I have to do that. I wanted all of that off of my brain. And so I went through my house, got everything done that had to get done, made sure that everything was going to be set up so that it's accessible, it's easy, it's going to be comfortable. I did everything that I could think of that needed to be done. Physically, I got the food, all the stuff I wanted to do, made sure I was exercising. And then I went a little over the top because that's me. That's just who I am. So I was not only exercising and doing all of that stuff, but I was going in for acupuncture and my chiropractics. It's like, let's make sure my back is very comfortable and doing all these things before I go in for surgery. So I just wanted to mentally be very prepared. And then I really do think that spiritually, I think it's a huge component of recovery. I think it's a huge component of how we do. I think we are spiritual beings. Now, not all of you will agree, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, and you will do what you do as long as you do, you have some plan. If you go through this process, that's okay. For me, I meditated every single day. I prayed every single day, and I called everyone I knew to ask them to pray for me. Now, I believe very much in the power of prayer. So do what you can to prepare spiritually if you're going to go in for any type of procedure, and just be ready. Feel like spiritually you are strong. So prayer and meditation for me, I would actually visualize each day when I would do my prayer and meditation, I would visualize healing light. I would visualize coming through the surgery clean, coming through the surgery with no complications. I'd visualize getting up afterwards and what I was going to feel like, what my energy was going to be like, how quickly I was going to recover. I would visualize all of that. I also did, this is a little corny, it's a little dorky, but I visualized, I actually said goodbye to, I had to have a hysterectomy. So I had this uterus that decided to go rogue. It just decided to take over my body. It was insane. So I did a little, I thanked it for my child, and I was said goodbye to it. So I just wanted to make peace with my body. And so maybe that's silly to some of you. It felt really good to me. And so then when I went in the day of surgery, I had the most amazing support system. And I think that's another component. So your support system is another part of your building your reserve and your environment, is having your support system with you. and we prayed together. And then as I went into surgery, so many people go under anesthesia feeling anxious. And I think that's not a really good thing. Studies actually show that if you go into anesthesia feeling good, you actually come out feeling better, right? So if you go in thinking you're going to recover well, you do recover well. So I actually, right before, I actually asked them to tell me when I was going to go under. And so before I went under, I actually visualized like this warm healing light around me. I actually visualized just this protective light around me, and I was praying, and I went under, and it was just very peaceful. So I think that that's a really important thing. That's what I did before surgery to sort of build my reserve, prepare my environment, get my community support, get all of that together, get all of that ready, get my body ready, my mind, everything together. Then you have a post-op, okay? Now, the advantage to being really healthy going in was I wasn't supposed to go home that day, of course. It was a pretty big surgery. But because my husband's a doctor, I'm a nurse, and I was really healthy, they let me go home that day. First, she was like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. That's just, you should stay here. And then after surgery, she said, let me just see how you're doing. But here was my reasoning. Now, I'm not saying you should go home after surgery. If you don't have great care and you don't know what you're doing, maybe that's not the best thing for you. But I know that one of the best places to catch a bug and get sick is in the hospital. I'm a nurse. The other thing is I knew I wasn't going to sleep. And one of the things you need that's critical for recovery is sleep. So I thought, well, if I'm in the hospital and they're waking me up constantly and I'm hearing all these alarms and beeps and buzzes and people, I'm not going to sleep. So I talked her into letting me go home that night. My husband was a saint. He was absolutely amazing. My daughter was amazing. They took amazing care of me. And I know that it was a big part of why I did so well. I was in my own bed. It was comfortable. I had already done all this cool stuff with getting lots of cushy pillows. So it was a big part of recovery. So the post-op care is going to be the next thing that's going to really help you. What that strategy, knowing what to do with post-op. So part of my pre-op was to make sure I was really aware and prepared of what to expect for post-op. I knew exactly what to expect. So the type of procedure I had was not an open abdomen like they used to do. I had a robotic procedure, so they actually, literally, I look like I've been shanked. So I've got these like stab marks all over my stomach. So I actually feel like the tough person I've always thought that I was in my head. So now I've actually got this proof. I've got these like stab marks on my abdomen. But I knew that that's what I would come out with. I knew what to expect. I know surgically what to expect afterwards. So I asked a lot of questions so that I know how to handle the post-op. My husband knew how to take care of me. All of that stuff was already ready. And the big thing, the big challenging thing, especially if you're someone like me and you are healthy, one of the hardest things is when you start to feel better, you think you're special. You think you should just be able to go back to doing what you did. And that's not smart. So the wisdom of age has taught me I've had complications from doing that in the past. It's pretty serious complications from surgery. So I now know, just because I feel better, this is the most critical part. Don't get up and do too much. And you have these thoughts in your head like people are going to think I'm milking it. People are going to think I'm lazy. You need to take care of your body. This is the most important time that you have to focus on self-care. So, and maybe it's not surgery for you. Maybe you're going through something else. I don't know. Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's something else. But you need to be thinking about what is self-care at that point in your life? What do you need to be doing? It's not really about what other people think. It's about how you can heal and focus the best. So this time I learned from my mistakes in the past. A wise man learns from his own mistakes, and a wiser man learns from someone else's. So I had to learn from my own. Hopefully you can learn from mine. Don't overdo it, okay? Just take the time. It's been a great time of just, sort of being able to rest and relax and enjoy my family. They've been just incredible. I was not able to do any of my meditation stuff for the first probably week and a half, and I'll tell you why in a minute. That's another story. I had this epiphany. It was very interesting. But I did do some binge watching. That was actually my guilty pleasure. I did some binge watching of Netflix and whatever. I know all the stupid TV shows on, they're just so dumb. But anyways, that was the one thing I did do. But take that time. Don't feel guilty. You deserve it. Okay? Just figure out, do the stuff you need to do ahead of time and take the time People are not going to disappear out of your life if you don't get back to them right away. You don't need to be a slave to your email. You don't need to be a slave to social media. Just take the time to take care of yourself, heal, relax, and disconnect. And you'll be shocked at how good it feels when you don't actually feel like a slave to all of that. So one of the epiphanies I had, and I thought this was so fascinating. I don't like pain medication. It makes me feel really wonky. Unlike what a lot of people describe, like, oh, it feels really good. I don't take it because I know it feels too good. It doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel really weird. A little nauseous and just a little wonky. But I had to take it for the first 2 days because the pain was pretty significant for the first 2 days. So then I was taking it just for a couple of nights after that, just so that I could sleep at night, because sleep is critical. So I took it for a couple of nights, and then I thought, I can't take this. It's making me feel too icky. So I switched over to taking some Benadryl, the lowest dose of Benadryl with Advil. I took 12.5 milligrams of Benadryl over the counter, not a prescription, with some Advil. And I thought, well, that's easier. That's not a narcotic. That's fine, right? And something really crazy, like it was so crazy. So I slept like a rock, definitely slept like a rock. Don't get me wrong. But first day was okay. By the second or third day, I started to I didn't connect it, but I started to not feel right. I didn't feel like myself. I was very apathetic, had no energy, felt like I was walking through mud, just didn't feel right. And so I started to notice I was feeling kind of depressed. I'm like, oh, this reminds me of a very dark time in my past. I'm not depressed yet, but I feel like I'm not going the right way. So I started to notice the signs. And bear in mind, I'm taking the smallest dose of an over-the-counter medication. And I suddenly had this epiphany. I tried to do my meditation, couldn't focus on it. Tried to read my Bible, couldn't focus on it. Didn't care. And so I literally laid there all day, just ugh. And so I had this amazing epiphany, and I talked to my husband about it. And I thought it just gave me so much empathy for the people that come to our clinics. Because I thought these people are going through much worse than what I just went through. Many of them are on much heavier medications. Many times they don't know when they start taking these medications the effect that it's going to have, or the fact that when you start taking some medications, they wire your brain to need them. They don't even know they're getting into this vicious circle. I took this for a couple days, smallest dose over the counter. And it took me a couple days to put it together that that's what was happening. Imagine you go through some major trauma, you can't sleep. I know someone who was taking 50 milligrams of Benadryl just trying to get 2 hours of sleep at night, and it wasn't really working, but you got to sleep. And so they just backed themselves into this major corner. So I just gave me a lot of empathy, because we give these people stuff to do. And maybe I'm rambling right now, but stay with me for 1 minute. We give people stuff to do that we know is going to help them feel better very quickly, if they will do it. But they can't focus on it. I could not focus. I didn't care. I just was so bleh. And so it just made me realize that it takes a little time. So give yourself a little grace, and don't be afraid to tell people that that's what you're experiencing, that's what you're feeling, and get some help with that, coming out of that. For me, it was only a couple days, so I was able to just go off of it. And within 2 days, my whole brain and my mind felt like I literally bounced out of bed 2 days later. I felt great. But if you've been taking some of those things for a long time, like Ambien is one of those drugs, rewires your brain. Narcotics rewire your brain. They make you dependent. So it takes time. And I used to just think it was why do people do that? But then I started to realize, oh my gosh, there's so many reasons people start doing things, and they need help getting out of the situation. And it just sort of broke my heart. So I'm rambling. I'm going on and on right now. But I wanted to throw that out there because it really made me sort of understand that once you start down that road, it's a pretty tough thing to even be able to see clearly. So I hope that if you know someone going through that helps you understand a little bit, and maybe help you get them help. I don't know. But anyways, I just want to tell you that if you are going through anything, whether it's surgery or you're going through some kind of trauma, really important, like we talk about in our books, you've got to be prepared. You've got to be armed. You've got to be aware. It's why we talk about having a warrior mentality, because going through surgery or going through a trauma, really is like going through sometimes a war, sometimes it's just a fight, and sometimes it's a war. So if you want to win, you got to like focus on doing the strategies that are going to help you win. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty darn competitive. I don't like losing. So I only had to almost lose, once before I went, okay, wait a second, this isn't working for me. I'm going to do this better the next time. So I hope this was helpful. I have been trying to direct you guys to go more to our podcast. Daniel and I do a podcast. I'm still going to do live chats. I still answer questions on Facebook, but there are so many of you now writing in that I can't get to them individually as quickly. So you have to bear with me. So our podcast, Brain Warriors Way podcast, is a great way to connect. The same podcast, we do the video, it's on YouTube. I sometimes put them on, and they all come onto Facebook. But you may not see me live as often because it's a lot to try to keep up with all of these venues. So I hope that you tune in, and it was great reconnecting with you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.